Howdy goons, the Christmas season is upon us, so it's time to talk about budget handhelds for gifting. Here's a secret, they don't have to be gifts just for other people, you can get them for yourself, I won't tell anybody. Each of the 5 handhelds I'm going to talk about today are going to have one really good thing about them that makes them just like the best of the best for what they are. But they all do have one thing in common, and that's that they're all less than $80 and they're all great. There are links in the description for all of them, but they are not affiliate links, so just get them wherever you can get them cheapest. This first one is my personal favorite. Beginner-friendly Android, Miyoo 20 V32. If you asked me 3 months ago what 3 words don't belong in a sentence together, I'd easily tell you beginner, friendly, and Android. Android handhelds are notorious for being very annoying and very challenging to set up for those who aren't tech savvy. Even for someone like me who is tech savvy, it was still a pain for my first few handhelds. I used to work in a repair shop where we fixed phones, tablets, surfaces, and laptops. A bunch of different stuff. So I'm very used to setting up cell phones. But this is beyond that. This is beyond just setting up an Android phone. When I got my first Android handheld, it was still very difficult. Even if the handheld picks out all the right apps for you in advance, you still have to set them all up. But Linux-based handhelds like Anbernic and Powkiddy devices come out of the box working and set up entirely. Just sign into Retro Achievements if you want, add games, and you're off to the racing games. Miyoo Retro has changed my mind entirely on the idea of beginner-friendly Android. It does exist. It's right here. They introduced this a couple months ago, the Miyoo 20 V32. It's an Android-based handheld and it has none of the annoying setup of other Android handhelds, like Retroid. And it's all thanks to that custom operating system. Oh, I gotta close out of my Pokemon game. I'm in the middle of Pokemon Lazarus. You probably can't see it too well because this game's dark as hell. Even at max brightness, it's dark as hell. Although it looks brighter for you because it's a camera. The interface looks very much like a regular Linux handheld, interface. It's all thanks to its custom operating system called Aurora Launcher. It's a fork of the Dawn Launcher. If you're a Miyoo fan, this screen in particular probably looks a little familiar to you. The Aurora Launcher looks a lot like Onion OS. It's super simple to use. You pick your game, you go, you can make favorites and stuff like that. Works just like Linux. And if you want to access your Android apps, it does have a separate tab for Android apps. The hardware itself is the same all-winner chipset that's used in the TrimUI brick handhelds. So you can expect similar performance to that, but also Anbernic's XX devices, because they are very similar in terms of power. I've said before that this handheld is like a better version of the RG35XX. Which I have one of those too. I don't recommend it because they're hard to get a hold of now. Very similar looking, but this is a better version of it for a lot of reasons, but the back is one of them. But I've said that this is better than the 35XX, and I do stand by that. Still, when comparing them side by side, the Miyoo 20 V32 kills it in every regard, even the price. Since it runs on Android, we even get features that Linux handhelds can only dream of, like the sleep function. It has an amazing sleep function. It only consumes 3% of its battery overnight, and when it's awake, it's got 6 to 8 hours of battery life depending on what you play. I could honestly talk about this thing forever, and I have before, but let's give some likes and dislikes and then move on to the next handheld. What I like. Cheapest handheld for what it offers. A true budget king at just $43. You can buy it without an SD card if you know what you're doing and like to save $5. Best sleep quality of its price. Pocketable, really cool color options like transparent purple, transparent green, lots of cool colors. Very easy to use, basically the Android version of Linux. Plays low power Android games, plays light Dreamcast and N64 but has full compatibility for everything else. Wi-Fi at this price is crazy and has raised triggers. What I don't like, low power for Android, so YouTube and browsers are a little bit slow. No Play Store, massive bezels. SD card included was preloaded with indie games. Really don't like it when they do that. ROMs and indies are entirely different things. I don't like vertical handhelds too much. It'd be perfect if it had a horizontal version. Most of the issues I have are those that you'd expect with a handheld that's less than $50, but in spite of that, it's still the one that I use the most out of anything. You can't beat this just based on the sleep function. The reason why Android devices are so sought after is because of their superior sleep function. Just having that sleep is really good because it consumes way less power than a Linux handheld does when it's asleep. This I can leave off for a week or two and it'll still have battery by the end of that week. But there is a bit of a challenge for the gifting part of this. As far as I can tell, there isn't a kiosk or kid mode, so it's possible for people to get into the settings and mess things up. So it doesn't make for a very good gift for children who might accidentally get into the settings menu and mess around a bit too much. The best gift for tiny gamers, the RG28XX. There is a lot to like about this little handheld, and I had 3 titles in mind for this section. It's the cheapest option from a reputable company. It's super tiny but comfortable. It's the smallest XX device there is without sacrificing power, and it's bare bones with no fluff features like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth. Just what you need to play. The RG28XX is a micro handheld that's only $30, and while it is on the small side, it's the handheld I've used the most up until this point. It used to be my everyday carry before I got the Shoe 20, just because of how small the 28XX is. To give you an idea of how small this is, it fits in women's jeans and in skinny jeans no problem. It's that small, but surprisingly, it's still bigger than an actual GBA micro that it's trying to look like. Despite this smallness, it's still a powerful H700 Linux handheld like the rest of Ambernex's XX devices. So this is just as powerful as this. Very two different handhelds, very two different sizes, and still very similar performance. That means that this can play PS1 and everything before it as well, with no issues. But let's get to the bulleted list part. What I like. Teeny tiny. It's very cute as well. Got just enough space for a little Kirby sticker. Adorable. I used to have a lanyard that I put on this as well that made it extra cute. I use that lanyard on my DSi now. Comfortable due to the candy bar shape. It's wider than many other micro handhelds. Many micro handhelds are vertical, so they're a little more scrunched up with tinier space and your hands buckle together in the back, but because of this candy bar shape, your hands are well spaced apart. It does have mini HDMI out if you want to play it on a TV, but I'll get to the buts. Being an XX device, it has huge CFW support, so it has things like MooOS and Nully, and it may have others like MinUI and stuff like that. I don't know for sure on the MinUI part, but I have used Moo and I have used Nully on this, no problem. And it has a headphone jack, which is good because we're getting to the dislikes now. What I don't like, no Wi-Fi. This is an almost perfect device. If this had Wi-Fi, I would still be using this daily. No Bluetooth, typically not a problem, but because it has the HDMI out port, you might want to hook it up to your TV, but that still means you still have to use this as your controller while you still have that big cord connected to it. So having Bluetooth would have been a great option for consoleizing, but this can't do that. The buttons are very small. So here we have the buttons on it, and then here we have a controller with well-sized normal buttons. These are about the same size as a regular Xbox 360 controller, well, Xbox Series controller buttons, and then this is their buttons. Very, very tiny on the 28XX. They had space to make them bigger, they just didn't. Mono speaker is placed under the thumb, which makes not having Bluetooth that much more of a pain, because you don't have your wireless headphones to make up for the lack of mono, but you do have the headphone jack to make up for it. The other thing that I forgot to put on the script is that this makes for a pretty good MP3 player alternative. If you get one of those L-shaped jacks, you can pop it in here, slide it into your pocket, and listen to music on it. Only problem is that you have to leave the screen on if you're going to use it as an MP3 player, which presents some issues. And the last downside is it cannot be played one-handed. One of the big reasons for micro handheld devices is people want it to be able to play one-handed. You can't play one-handed on this unless you remap these buttons, the shoulder buttons, but then that's very hard to play like. So it would not be good for someone who wants one-handed gameplay for stuff like one-handed Pokemon, which is, you might be surprised if you haven't heard this before, a very popular way to play these handhelds. The Shoe 20 V32 can actually be played one-handed just a little bit. I can reach the buttons no problem when I'm holding it like this, and then it's got a little grip spot for my finger. So I play this one-handed sometimes, but it's still a little wider than I would like. 35XX is a little bit more doable, but still, it's just a little bit too wide for one-handed play. Now, it's definitely not a handheld for someone who already has a handheld. This I would recommend to someone who is just wanting to try this stuff out and wants it super cheap, super cool, super portable. Just something for you to figure out what you want to, use. Now, it is good for people who want something cheap to throw in a bag when out and about. If you're playing a lot of ROM hacks on the go, it's a great pick for that too. But I think where it really shines is as a gift for children. The small buttons won't be an issue, the small screen won't be an issue, it's super cheap, it's durable enough for the price. I've dropped this thing a ton and there's no marks on it. And best of all, you can put Nully on as its custom firmware. That means that it'll have kiosk mode and kid mode that you can enable. And all that means is that you put games on it, you put kiosk mode on, and then the kids can't get access to the settings. So you don't have to worry about them messing anything up. If you want a more adult version of this kind of handheld, I would check out the Magic X028V 2. I don't have that handheld myself, but it's made by the same company, well, the same manufacturer as the Shoe 20, so it's probably good. It's just like this, but it also has an analog stick on it. Well, 2 analog sticks, and Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but it's a little bit more expensive, just slightly more. Number 3, the Comfort King, the RG Cube XX. No budget handheld list would ever be complete without mentioning the Cube XX. It's super weird looking, right? You already noticed what's wrong with it, or in my case, what I think is right with it. This one has been on my mind ever since its release. Originally, it was just such an oddity to me. Who would ever want a 1-1 screen? Like, what is this good for? But I looked into it, and then I got it for myself and started playing around with it, and it just really makes sense. This is hands down the most comfortable handheld I've ever played with. The ergonomics and button position make this a handheld dream. Its screen also gives extra special attention to a bunch of systems that usually don't get the special treatment. Now, you can see the ergonomics fit really well. Your hands rest in a good spot. There's this texture on the inside that makes it easy to grip. I don't know how this looks on the camera, but you're getting it. But look, it just naturally rests very well in the hand. No problem. Perfect fit. And that texture on the inside is really grippy. I wish the grip was maybe a little bit higher, but this is an almost perfect grip. But this 1-1 screen means it's a perfect fit for Game Boy Color, Pico 8, and anything taller than a 4:3 aspect ratio. This is a 4:3 aspect ratio. You might think that this 1-1 screen shape means that 4:3, 3:2, and 16:9 suffer, but the width of the screen is actually the same as Anbernic's 3.5-inch handhelds. The majority of Anbernic's handhelds are 3.5, and as you can see, these are the same width, which means 4:3 is the same size here as it is here. It just has bigger black bars on the top. While I still think that 16:9 is a little small on here, you're really not going to be playing all that much 16:9, and if you were probably going to get a device that's specifically good for 16:9 with a 16:9 screen, because it's such a small specific screen size. Now, at the same time, the 1-1 screen is a massive 4 inches diagonally. Massive 1-1 screen. This is the biggest screen that you'll get for GB, GBC, and Pico 8 in the budget category. It's also great for WonderSwan. The WonderSwan is a system that is played both horizontally and vertically depending on the game. You would tilt the controller, the handheld, based on the orientation of the game. This is a 1-1 screen, which means horizontally is the same length as it is vertically, which means if you're playing a WonderSwan game, you just press a button and it will rotate the screen, and then you can play it, and you don't have to tilt the handheld or anything like that. So it's really perfect for WonderSwan. So that makes like 5 people in the US happy, because no one outside of Japan really knows what a WonderSwan is. It's my one hipster, special interest. It's also great for vertical shmups because of this very tall screen. There's not very many super tall screens like this. So if you like vertical arcade shooters like Gunbird, this is a good fit for it. In general, it has a ton of features for $60. So let's get into the list. What I like about it: being part of the XX family means that it has a huge amount of CFW support like MoOS, Nully, MinUI, all that. It's comfortable as all heck. Huge 1-1 screen. You will not find another 1-1 screen like this right now. Amazing D-pad. You might hate this disc D-pad, but I thought I would too, and I really like it. It's not quite as dipped, bowl-shaped as a Genesis controller is, but it's still pretty good. I found this plenty precise enough for games that needed it, as well as being very good and easy to roll when you wanted to do diagonals intentionally. It has laser etched texture on the back, which makes it better for gripping, and it just feels really good. The triggers are also laser etched. The sticks light up. They're LGBT lights, RGB lights, that's what it is. They're RGB lights, and they light up, and you can change the color of them. You can make them rainbow and be LGBT lights if you want them to. It has HDMI out at the top, mini HDMI out. It has Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, and it has a headphone jack exactly in the center at the bottom. What I don't like about it, though, is that it's not pocketable. Even in, big manly man pants, it's not very pocketable. It has down-firing speakers, which sucks. I much prefer front firing because it's louder and it's less disturbing to other people. And it is a 5-watt charging device, which just shouldn't be a thing anymore. That's way too slow for charging. The faster a battery charges, the faster I can be done with charging it, and the less likely that something is going to go wrong with the battery down the line. Comfort in this price range is rare as is, and 1-1 aspect ratio in general is pretty rare. There is only 2 other handhelds I can think of that are 1-1 aspect ratio, and those are both vertical. So I think this might actually be the only horizontal 1-1 handheld, which means it's the only comfortable 1-1 handheld. I don't like vertical systems. The only way that I think that they could make it better is if they had a better charger for it and used Android for improved sleep functionality. Now, I know what some people are going to say. There is an Android version of this. the original RG Cube. But that one was also more powerful, which made it more pricey. What I'm saying is that I want this in this so that I can get that Android sleep but still, have around the same power and price. It's a great option as a gift for an adult. It's a great home console, not really something you go out and about with because of how big it is. It's especially great for adults if they like Sega, GBC, or GB. I would not get this for a little kid though, more of a gift for a high schooler who will really pamper and respect this thing. One-handed gaming, Miyoo Mini V4. This is probably the most expensive option of the list at $69. Nice. It was honestly hard for me to recommend this because of what's been going on with Miyoo for a little while now. Miyoo apparently used to be BitBoy, and they used to be the king of this market with the BitBoy and the Pocket Go. Still love the Pocket Go's aesthetic. Anbernic came in though and hogged the limelight for a little while. Then Miyoo made the Miyoo Mini, and they were on top for a bit. For a while, people would recommend the Miyoo Mini before anything else. For a good reason too. It was the smallest vertical micro handheld for a good while, but they sold out quick and they stayed sold out until the most recent iteration. They just couldn't keep them in stock. Now the screens are worse and they use different parts than the original did so that they can keep them in stock. I guess, necessary sacrifices to ensure that they can keep providing a product, but it's still like $70. That's not the only problem though. They made a flip handheld that ended up with a lot of buyers ending up with a bunch of busted hinges. Since then, people have been paranoid of buying anything with a hinge from anyone but Anbernic, since it seems like Anbernic's the only one that doesn't have hinge issues. After hearing about this, Miyoo did not do a good job of handling the situation. They put out a video of the handheld working with its hinge just fine. It's not a great PR move. It's the kind of thing that an overconfident jerk might do in response. Now Miyoo has released the Miyoo Mini Flip, and people are on the fence again. So that's why I'm not recommending the Flip. It's too soon to verify the hinge quality of these devices. Maybe in another 6 months. Anyway, lots of people swear by the Miyoo Mini. There are a couple of YouTubers like TechDweeb that would just die for their Miyoo Mini if it asked them to. There is of course value to it. If I had to recommend you any vertical micro handheld, it would still be the Miyoo Mini. It's the perfect system for one kind of person, the Pokemon gamer. You can very easily play Pokemon and all sorts of RPGs on it one-handed. This reason alone is why I also thought about buying the Mini Flip, but its battery is only 2 hours long. Thankfully, the battery is much longer on the V4. It's a good handheld, and it's not a hinge handheld, so it should be fine. What people like about it, because I don't actually have one myself, but I've seen tons of recommendations for this thing. It's tiny, but not too tiny. It has a great 4-hour battery life to 6 hours battery life, which is very good for its size. One-handed gaming, headphone jack, tiny screen, but it's still bigger than the average Game Boy or Game Boy Color size screen. The ultimate in terms of portability. What people dislike about it. The triggers suck absolute cheeks. They're just not good. Very slow charging. Single boot, and no Wi-Fi. Most of the problems with the handheld are to be expected from a device of this size. So if you get any other micro handheld, you can expect similar. The exception being Magic X and Miyoo A30, which both have Wi-Fi, but they're not as small. They're also not vertical. I do think that this handheld is a good companion handheld because it can be played anywhere. If you play a lot of RPGs and Pokemon and don't care about retro achievements, this is a great handheld to have. But there are handhelds that are more featured while still being cheaper, so you would really have to value the one-handed lifestyle in order to get this. I think this works great as a gift for adults because a lot of people might not know that they want this until they actually have it. It's a little too small and expensive for kids though. If your gamer is a gamer that has everything, this is a good one to get because they might have skipped over this one underestimating its small size. Surprise! It's still awesome! A modded Nintendo DSi. Retro handhelds aren't just emulators, and while this one is pretty special, it's from a lesser known company. They're not talked about very often in these spaces. They're called Nintendo, some random obscure Japanese company, but they've been making a bunch of handhelds like this for a while now. They all have these super generic names too, like the Game Boy, or the Entertainment System, or here, let me get this goofy thing out, or the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. And then this one is, of course, the DS dual screen. I wonder how long the meeting was for naming this one. Well, these all had a bunch of games that were released and made just for them, too. Some of these games people are trying to play on emulator handhelds, too. But you can kind of see a problem here. You see the issue? Don't make me spell it out. While this handheld is capable of playing DS games, it's not the best at it because you have to swap between the screens one at a time. But the best emulator handhelds for this system are ones that have 2 screens, and the best of these are like hundreds of dollars. The cheapest one from Anbernic can't even run the good emulator that people expect to in order to be able to play this well, Melon DS. The Anbernic one runs Drastic. It can only use that software, and that software is not being updated anymore, which makes it a bad software to emulate on. But for half the price of the Anbernic one, just $50 for this, you can find DSi that are used. No one is really buying these things. I found them in thrift stores for $30. I was given 2 of them. I have this one here, and then I have this one here. I didn't pay for either of them. They were just given to me. But the cool thing is that you can mod them so that they can play DS games from the SD card. Here, I'll pop out the card. Rhythm Heaven is in there. I use it just to keep the port clean. You can see the hack menu here. And then I go down to here. So again, no card in the slot. Game here. And then the game's running. Still no card. So that's what's cool about it. You can mod it through the SD card slot and put DS games onto it without having to go and buy a bunch of cards. And if you've got cards already, you can use a modded DS to take the ROMs off of the cards and put them onto the system so that you can play them without having to pop every single card in. Super convenient. Let me put that back in there to keep my card slot clean. I can go into a lot of detail on how this stuff works, but functionally it's not really any different from using an emulator handheld other than it is original hardware, which means it will run games much better than these will, and it will have full compatibility with the DS library. If you want more info on that, you should check out my DS video that is on the end card. I go into a little bit more detail. But trust me, if you have someone who wants DS emulation but can't afford the Thor, this is the best and cheapest option right now. Because like I said, the Anbernic one is looking like it will not be very good. Now, what I like about it, lanyard loop right there, so I can have a wrist strap on it. Love that. All systems should have them. Also, yes, that's a Wii wristband for more immersion. Original hardware, which means it plays the games better and more accurately. It's a clamshell, which means it's got a really good sleep function. Quiet down, you. So it sleeps better, and it keeps the buttons and everything safe. It keeps the screens clean. You don't have to worry about it scratching from being in your pocket. It's a wide horizontal shape, which makes it more comfortable. It has a touch screen because it's a DS. Some of these don't have touch screens. This one's a touchscreen, this one is not. It's very durable. This has been around for years, almost 2 decades, and it is very clean looking. The previous owner did a good job of taking care of it. This one a little less so. You can see the paint coming off and showing the original color because it's been scraped around. This is a good sign. This means it's a device that was actually played and used, and whoever used it and played with it used it and played with it a lot. That means it is a very good, very happy system. It has a good battery life. I think it's above 4 hours. It comes in a lot of colors. There's white, blue, pink. I've seen some other colors. I can't remember them all off the top of my head, but they're good, deep, heavily saturated colors. It plays both physical game cartridges and it plays ROMs, and you can run either of them once it's modded. And it is the cheapest option that you will find for DS emulation in a handheld, because it's not actually emulation, it's the real thing, but also because there are plenty of these flying around out there. What I don't like about it, modding is a little time consuming. Modding it is also for the tech savvy. Not everyone is gonna have a good time modding this. It can be a little annoying. It has very small buttons. They're about the same size as, actually, they're still bigger than the RG28XX's buttons, but they're still small buttons. It's hard to find reliably. You can't guarantee that you will always be able to get it or at this price, but you can really guarantee that these other handhelds are going to be around forever. But you can easily go to the Anbernic store and buy an RG Cube XX. You can go to Amazon and there will be an RG Cube XX there. You can't go on the internet and guarantee that you'll be able to find one of these, and they will not be new. They will always be used. So it's hard to have them reliably. You have to buy it used. I just said that. You do have to buy it used. You will not find a brand new one very easily, not cheaply either. Since it's original hardware, there are original hardware issues, like the battery. Some of these are starting to suffer to battery bloat from their age, which means you may get stuck with a battery one that kind of bends your door a bit. I don't know if that's visible to you, but the battery door was bent on this one from its battery being swollen from no use. So you may have to replace the battery, and if it does have a swollen battery, you're going to have to take it to a special place to be e-wasted. Because if you don't, a bloated battery can eventually cause a fire. If you've ever seen like that TikTok of the dumpster on fire, it's because someone threw away a lithium battery that was eventually bloated and exploded and, caused that dumpster to get on fire. It's very irresponsible to throw away a bloated battery. You have to take it to an e-waste facility. Or maybe you can take it to like a cell phone store. They might have a proper disposal system for that. It also does not have retro achievements. So if the person you're buying for likes retro achievements, or you think they will, this is a system that cannot use retro achievements. And Nintendo DS original games do have a lot of retro achievement sets for them. That's the main reason why I don't play this as much as I would like to, because I do eventually want to get some achievement work done. But I have beat games on this. I do play this. I'm still playing Cooking Mama on it. There are, of course, drawbacks to the original hardware, like having to buy secondhand or having to replace the battery, which is likely damaged from unuse. Modding might also be a little difficult for some people, but if that's the case for you, then you could just buy a flash cart. They come for the DS one, and if you have an original DS, they have flash carts for the GBA slot as well. And then you just pop out the SD card that's on them, and then you can load them full of games and put them in there and play it. And it'll work just the same as if you put it on the SD card. That might be easier for you. Also, only the DSi and the 3DS series can be modded, because the DS Lite and DS regular do not have an SD card slot, which means that they cannot be modded. You need the card slot to be able to mod. Also, the camera app is what's being used as the access point, which is kind of funny. If you get a DS original or a DS Lite, you're going to want to get a flash cart for it. This is honestly, though, still a great option if the person you're buying for already has a DSi or 3DS and you want to get them a gift for cheap. You can just go, hey, I can hack your system for you, and then you can play all the games. You want me to do that? And then you just do it for them and put a few games on there, and they'll love it. I did this for my wife with her 2DS, and now she comes to me every so often when she finishes a game to have me put more games on it for her, so I'd say it's a success, and it didn't cost me anything. Alright, that's it for my holiday recommendations list. You can find links for these below. They aren't affiliate links, like I said, so just get them wherever's best for you. If you find another site where you can get a deal better, by all means take that instead. It doesn't affect me either way. Thanks for watching. Remember to tip your overlord. I take likes, subscribes, and enough handhelds to build a fort. Bye!